All right, hello and welcome back to the Community HOPEcast. We are back with another Spill the Tea episode, and today we're doing a little something special. We have a guest with us. I'll be your host for today, Jane, and with me are...
My name is Tree.
And my name is Mai Khanh.
Nice. And Mai Khanh, you come from Westminster High School.
I do, yes.
Yeah, so not only is Spill the Tea a podcast segment that we do for the Community HOPEcast, but we actually do bring this event out into the wild, into the community. And Mai Khanh is a teacher at Westminster High School who we are bringing Spill the Tea to her students.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, I know. So, thank you, Jane. Hi, my name is Mai Khanh. I am a Westminster High School teacher. I currently teach Vietnamese classes for the students, as well as I do teach a leadership class called Link Crew. So thank you so much for inviting me today. This is totally awesome. Thanks for Hope Community Services, as well as being able to bring this program to our students in the future too.
Yeah, so in advance of the event, we're doing a special episode with you, just to get a little taste for what Spill the Tea is. And today for our episode, we are talking about discovering our life path. So, I mean, you are currently now a teacher, right? And us too, we're working adults now.
Yep.
But, for high schoolers growing up, even like a lot of young adults out there, discovering their own life path can be challenging, right? Especially, I thought about this before too when I was in high school. Leaving high school, it's like, wow, life diverges into so many different paths. Nothing is guaranteed. So many different options for you now, right? So I think it's really great getting to hear from a variety of people what their experience is like and how they kind of figured themselves out. Or if they're currently figuring it out, like what they've learned, that kind of thing. Yeah, so we'll just kind of dive right into it. With a little reflection, like, what was your first realistic dream when you were young?
So my first realistic dream growing up, I actually wanted to be a pediatrician. So, and that was the main reason why is because I think growing up, for one, in like an Asian household, like our parents are always the ones who tell us like, oh, like you can do better than me, you can do more than me, you know, and that and my parents, they're immigrants from Vietnam too. So I was born over here while my siblings and my parents immigrated from Vietnam. So so it's like always trying to push like, hey, you can become a doctor, you become like those big roles, you know? Right. And so just like that little kind of push and motivation from them.
Yeah.
So it was like, yes, like definitely want to be pediatrician. There weren't so many Asian pediatricians. Like I know my uncle was a pediatrician himself, but but yes, so seeing him and his job too, it's like, okay, with that push from that family side, knowing that, okay, I can do more than my parents, and then also see my uncle be able to interact. So he was Bexy Winter, who passed away during the COVID years and stuff too. Okay. And yeah, so he was a really big inspiration as well too. But yeah, no, growing up, I want to be pediatrician.
Definitely familiar having your family, push these aspirations and stuff. But I think it's great that you yourself had a role model nearby who was already in that position. What about you, Tree?
Were you ever, question for Mai Khanh, were you ever like already good with kids when you were?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I love, yes. So
That's
it's
great.
like getting that kind of experience too, like I love hanging out with little kids. That sounds bad, but like being able to entertain little kids, being able to stoop on their level and just bring happiness to them. I think that was the most important part when it comes to being with little kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, you mentioned realistic dream. Can I share a kind of somewhat unrealistic dream?
Sure.
I wanted to be I wanted to be in a special force, like the Navy SEALs, the commandos, back when I was young. And it stems from just watching movies.
At this point, were you in the States yet?
No, I was born in Vietnam.
Is that where the unrealistic part comes in?
Yeah, until I know how hard it is to be a Navy SEAL. But yeah, just being a hero, being a team, a team member, working as a team, doing travel and doing awesome stuff that nobody knows about. So that was kind of like
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is rooted in realistic potential aspirations, just that you were still young and not in the country yet.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a little bit more inspired by more external, more distant.
More external, no distance.
Yeah,
No one in my
sources.
family was, were in the military. But yeah, so just seeing people, and then when I go school here, I see other recruiters. They always show you the coolest stuff. So like,
Okay.
oh, okay, I want to sign up.
I feel like they could still persuade your generation, but now I'm kind of like side eye when I see recruiters on
Yeah,
campus.
yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
sometimes they run some funny social medias though. Uh, okay, yeah, that's really nice. I think I relate more to your story, Mai Khanh, about having our family kind of guide us to certain aspirations and career paths. For me as well, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do in the future, the medical field was definitely one of the starters. And for me, I don't know if your family might have pushed for this too, but not only was it kind of like about a prestige thing for immigrant Vietnamese family to have like their children grow up, make a lot of money, but I remember specifically my mom also said a lot about how these are positions that you can help a lot of people and would be really beneficial to the community as well.
Totally agree with that point too, because and I just want to make this clear too, my parents never told me to say like, oh, be a doctor, but it was just that kind of subliminal messaging, saying like, you can do more than me, you can make more money, like how you mentioned, Jane, too. But yeah, like that's exactly, yes, the medical field, when we say medical, like doctors, nurses, and also too, it's like another part of it too, it's understanding the community we come from too. So it's like, yeah, there's doctors, but being able to be Vietnamese and a doctor, it's like that.
Pretty prestigious, right?
Yeah, like prestige, and as well, like there's just so much more benefit when it comes to like, now you're helping not just one certain population of and language of people, but you're helping people of your own kind as well too, so I think that was also the other benefit when it comes to the medical field as well too.
So clearly none of us present went down those initial dream paths. So how exactly did we change to get to where we currently are?
Ooh, you want to start first?
Life happens, I guess.
You have a particularly extensive resume.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how'd you end up here?
So pretty much from college, after I went to 2 years to university. Cal State Long Beach, and I wanted, at that time there was that kind of like the tail end of the .com era, so I saw a lot of people making money with computer science. So that's what I signed up for, until I found out how much math was involved. Like it was like calculus 1, 2, 3. I'm like, nope.
Oh,
so
not worth it?
I actually dropped out of college, right? I actually dropped out of college because at the same time I have a few cousins who went to college, Berkeley, UCI, and then they ended up working at like Enterprise Rental Car. So I was like, wait, if they spent all that money to go to college to Berkeley to work at, why should I like go to school? Keep in mind, this is before. And so I got a job being an insurance salesman. That's where I learned how to,
Life insurance.
Life insurance salesman. Yep. We spoke about that in the office. Yeah. So, and that didn't work out because no one would trust an 18, 19-year-old guy to sell insurance. And then I would break it out to different stages, right? We won't count years before high school because I didn't work at that time.
Yeah.
But then, young adult, my first real job was at Lee Sandwiches. Okay, being a supervisor, and then seeing the hard work that you put in compared to your paycheck, especially being a single, young person, taxes was a lot. Right, we can agree to that. That's a whole different topic.
I just
for another.
recently got a bunch of taxes taken by the government very recently.
Exactly. So that would break into that the young adult, and then after that, went back to school, University of Phoenix, got my degree in small business management, and we started working for companies, for a mortgage company, and then we hit the 2008 era where everyone was laid off, and I was like, oh, okay, so there's no such thing as
Job security,
right? And what did I do after that? And I start doing, working for different company doing accounting, and I got my real estate license. And then the next stage of my life would be when you start having kids, we start having mortgages, and then the dream aspiration kind of have to take a step back. Now it's a more realistic things in life now that you really have to take care of. You wake up and you have to go to work and pay for that mortgage so that your kids can have a home to stay in, right? And that's the next stage in life.
You definitely went through a lot of different changes.
Yeah.
But you also went back to get more education as well,
Right.
to be able to pursue some of the jobs that you did.
Right.
So I guess, would you say like a pattern for you, like the dream changing over time, is it also partly opportunity that you got to go back to school, or, went down these different avenues?
I think my upbringing was a little different. My parents were kind of never, I would say, give me that guilt trip. Hey, I brought you here. We also immigrants.
Yeah.
Never really a guilt trip. Like, hey, I brought you here, so you better go to school and make something of yourself and take care of us. Like, never like that. So, but they always, one that, subliminal message has always been, do better so that you have a better life than what we have now.
Okay.
Right. So that was always in my head. And when I dropped out of school, it wasn't because I don't like school, because I want to work and make money right away, right?
Yeah.
To build a dream. And you think nothing is that easy, right? Nothing is that easy. Lessons comes to me. Lessons come like
From experience?
from experience, like throughout life, right? There's no one can tell you what, this is the path.
Yeah.
Go to the path and you will be successful.
Yeah.
100%. Never. Yeah.
I think that's the hard thing to grapple with,
Yeah.
because I'm the youngest sitting here.
Okay.
But I think a lot of times, at least for my educational background, and the way that my teachers kind of framed it, was that these were like the tickets to success, like as if it would truly guarantee success. And it was definitely hard to grapple with the fact that, nothing is guaranteed. Like you said, there is no true job security in a sense. And, a college degree is a good, foot in the door, but you might not make it through the door ultimately. Depends, really. But yeah, that was interesting to hear about all the different changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's really great that you were so open to change as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went through a lot of experiences through that. Yeah.
And then might I add in too, like for me as a teacher too, it's reminding the students too that, like right now it's college acceptance season.
Right.
I have a lot of seniors
Right.
right now too, and so they're getting like these acceptances, rejections from schools too. And so whenever I have my seniors, I'm always reminding them like, hey, no matter where you go, it's honestly not about where you go, to be honest, and not about the name of the schools.
Yep.
It's truly, what are you going to use with your education? So wherever you decide to go so that you can continue the education, that's the most important piece. Right? It's how can you use your knowledge, your skills, your expertise to help the community, to help build a better future for yourself and for the people around you as well.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And I understand, like, yes, going back for school and education, it's like, to be honest, you can learn anything at all and be anything.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you don't have to follow just one path to be a doctor, or you don't have to follow just one path to be like a teacher. Like you can go through so many different things and you can still be successful. It's truly what you do with your education and with that skills. So
Yeah.
I think it's to add to that, I think your students are very lucky to have yourself and I know your brother.
Thank you.
Really young to come back to share the experience, because when we think of teachers before, at least from in my era, like they're all like very old, like they graduated high school like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So the experience is not there. So they're so fixated on like you have to go to this college in order to. So that put a lot of pressure on the kid, on the students, right? And you're right. I remember back in high school when during SAT and like college acceptance, like you would feel even if you feel really good, you get accepted, and feel like really, really bad for like not
Yeah.
getting to the school or getting a low SAT. Now that you grow up, none of that matters. None of that matters. So I'm so glad to
Yeah.
share that
Thank
your
you.
children can.
Yeah,
Thank
times
you.
have changed.
Yeah,
Even
that's
the
good.
process of like getting higher education has changed since way back when.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like I know right now it's like it's the mindset as well too, right?
Right.
Like I know Angie, he mentioned my brother Kang Bao. I have to give him a shout out because he was honestly one of like the pioneers in our family to go into teaching and education. And he really also was another inspiration on my end to really encourage me to also think about education as a possible pathway too,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, and at our, like, okay, sorry, for my school as well too, like Westminster High School, like, I think it's truly giving the kids the opportunity to choose. You know, because we want to make sure, like, yeah, I know SAT, ACTs, just right now, SAT, ACT, it's like, it's not a requirement for a lot of the UC-CSU. So just a plug there, just
Yeah.
let you know,
That's
just
good.
always check in,
That's
do
good.
the
Yeah.
research, but right now it's
Yeah,
not.
see, it's changed.
Yes.
Like,
changed.
It's changed
Okay.
because of COVID.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay. Great.
and I think now at Westminster High School, it's a really changed mindset from where it's like, yes, forcing everybody to go only 4-year colleges, get into those colleges, right? But to now, like, okay, let's open up that doorway and that
Yeah.
pathway for you so that you have the freedom to choose. If you want to continue 4-year, continue 4-year. If you want to do career-wise and get a certificate to be a expert on that area,
Yeah.
then you do that too.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the nice thing about education.
That's great.
You know,
That's great.
and yeah. Oh, I think it's my turn now. Okay.
You mentioned
Yeah.
you mentioned your brother and how he was definitely an inspiration for the career path of education. Is there anything prior to that, or is that how you've definitely changed to get on the path you are now?
Yeah. So for me personally, I think growing up, I've always wanted to love the science field and try to get into the medical field part.
Women in STEM.
Exactly, you know, and so I did. I enjoyed science in high school. My major I went to UCI. My major was biology. I graduated with biology, thinking that okay, I'm gonna stay in this medical field route. You know,
Yeah.
and it comes back to experiences as well too. So I remember reflecting back in my high school years, I did work at Hope before as well too.
yeah.
So I did work as a teacher. I remember being a teacher aide for a 2nd grade class here at Hope during summer. And then from then on, I think during my high school years, like I always came back to Hope Summer School to teach different subjects and grade levels. So I did have experience being able to teach high school kids, doing science. And then when I went through college and I still stayed in my bio degree, at first I was like, okay, I'm going to be pediatrician. Like I remember my freshman year, I was like, okay. And then I sat in one of my science classes and the girl sitting next to me, I was like, oh, you're a bio major too? She's like, yeah, I want to be pediatrician too. I'm like, oh shoot, there's going to be a lot of people like me, like with that same
Yeah.
mindset, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm just going to continue it and stuff. But truly because of the experiences with Hope, being able to tutor kids in all different subjects as well, I honestly had a slow change of like, okay, maybe pediatrician is not my thing. And I saw so many other like competitive pediatrician, medical field people. I'm like, okay, I don't really want to compete with these people, you know? And I was seriously thinking about going into nursing. Even though I still enjoy teaching, still came back to Hope to teach during the summers. And then I just remember that one opportunity where I had one of my former teachers, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm an Westminster High School alumni, so that's why it's kind of cool to come back, and be able to relate to the students there. But I had one of my former teachers message me, and he was like, "Hey, I have a good opportunity for you," and so that opportunity was to work as a community outreach specialist at Westminster High School. So this wasn't necessarily like a teaching job just yet, but being able to connect with the community, with the Vietnamese community especially, that allowed me to have my foot in the door for education.
Yeah.
And so I was working as a community outreach specialist in our Vietnamese community at Westminster High School. I ran a couple of classes for the parents and stuff. So there were a couple of things like we learned, it was called the 10 Commandments of Education. So it's a class workshop that we prepare for our parents to learn more about the American education system. And this class was usually taught in Vietnamese just to educate the parents about understanding, you know.
Do you guys still run that?
We do actually. So yes, so that one we work with like a couple of like Orange County businesses and stuff too. But there's a lot of different school districts that they do host this class in multiple languages. Again, just trying to connect with the parents and students.
Very cool.
And so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being part of the school community. Like I loved working with the kids, being able to talk with them, connect with them. And also I think a bigger piece is connecting with the parents and the students.
Yeah.
So just being able to bridge
That's very interesting.
that communication, it's like that's so eye-opening for me. And so because of that, I was like, okay, now I'm a community outreach specialist. Like I decided like I'm gonna go back to school, learning education again, to go back to get my certificate, my teaching certificate. So credential, I mean. So yeah, and then from then on, I was able to I got my teaching credential during COVID year. So definitely online classes, asynchronous classes were like my best friend during COVID years. Got it done right away. And and then opportunities opened up. And so I was able to continue that and
great.
work. And now I'm still working at Westminster High School as a teacher. So yes, I love it. And I enjoy every moment of it.
Wow.
I do have a question for you, Mai Khanh. You saying you did the outreach so that parents can understand more for their students, their kids. Does that stem from your upbringing, or is it? How do you feel the need to start that program?
Yeah. So growing up, I know my parents, they were very busy. My parents, they were sewing machine operators.
Yeah.
So they were always at home, always working, like every single cent, every single dime, right? And I wished there was a part of me where I know my parents' involvement growing up was definitely not as much compared to other people in the community. And so parent involvement, I've learned throughout the years that getting the parents involved is so important to a child's education, because if the parents are in the loop and they know how their kids are doing, if they know how to not be afraid to contact the school, it's super important, and it could really, really help the kids. So for my parents, like they weren't as involved. And I don't blame them for it, because it's like, that's not, that's definitely out of their control. And so now when I worked as that community outreach specialist and being able to let the parents, give them the chance. And going back, a lot of the time the parents don't get involved because they just don't have the communication piece. They can't speak the language, and especially with English, it's hard, and they get shy, they get scared, they don't want to mess up or embarrass themselves with other people. And so, yes, working as the community outreach, where it's like, okay, now I got this chance to really be able to connect with them, be able to give that confidence and build that confidence in them. I think that was the most important part, building confidence so that they can continue working with the school and with their students, essentially.
That's great.
I think, this is my first time hearing about this program. I went to Garden Grove High School, and I hadn't really heard about anything like that for families or parents, but just hearing about it and knowing that, it's offered in multiple languages and everything, and it helps the parents, guardians become more informed. I think that's really great because, at least from personal experience, I think having a parent or guardian who knows more about all the different options that a child could have for their future is really great for keeping like an open mind. And, of course, having a supportive guardian there for you as well is so beneficial for a student, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of these programs too, like I don't know how long have you graduated. I know it's been a long time since I graduated from Westminster High School. I know at the beginning we didn't have these kind of programs. And then when I came back to work there, I was like, oh yeah, it's really nice to see that they started it. I know Garden Grove District, they do have it. I just don't know how long ago they started it. But yeah, it's a really good program to have. Any kind of programs, to be honest. It's like any kind of classes where we educate the parents too, so that them and their kids don't have miscommunication, then it benefits everybody in the end.
Honestly, I feel like that'd be wonderful for summer school here and the families here as well. That sounds really interesting.
I think that's extremely important, because I remember like back in my day, I went to Los Alamitos and it's predominantly white. It was like only myself and my cousin were Vietnamese. So like I remember like our parents were very super busy. So like sometimes I have to force the signature on like these stuff that, just because rather than translating it to them, there was no phone translation.
Yeah.
You had to dictionary everything. So, things like that, just to speak volume of how important these programs are now. So awesome.
Yeah. So you guys kind of talked a little bit about how, your life path has evolved and changed. Would you be able to kind of point out one of the top challenges in this experience? Like the number one challenge you encountered on the way to determining what you want to do in your life?
Personally, for me, I think it's really knowing what to prioritize or manage in life. Like that work-life balance. So for me, I think I'm very involved in the community-wise as well too. So outside of just working at Westminster High School, I do also have Tianan Performing Arts. So we do traditional drumming, lion dancing, and cultural performances for the community. And that takes a lot of time as well too. But it's going back to the challenges, it's really trying to figure out, okay, what are your priorities? There is always going to be opportunities that you can take, that you can accept, but then just trying to find the time to get everything to fit, and at the same time trying to balance like that personal life and that family life and stuff. Like I'm not married yet and I don't have kids yet, but just being able to find time, and continue what you want to do, that's the biggest challenge for me. And knowing that, yes, I do need to sacrifice some things so that I can make time for others, which is the tough part sometimes. Like saying no, sometimes it's hard.
Saying no is hard.
Yeah. When you were saying that, I didn't know the direction you were going into, but I think prioritizing or figuring out your priorities in life and what your wants, needs, desires are, that's what I kind of relate to, was figuring out, because, we gotta be on that grind, get money, pay the bills, right? Like that speaks to your experience perhaps, and that might kill some dreams. But for me, understanding kind of, I have certain things I need to fulfill in life, paying the bills, making enough money for that. And then how much am I willing to sacrifice of my own resources, whether it be time, the mental capacity to, that might determine certain things I can do. And that itself, different people will kind of prioritize it differently, that, anything is worth the money if you can do it. And figuring that out was definitely really key to me, to figure out where I could be or wanted to be in life.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like right now, I know it's been my second year teaching. I still struggle with it. Like it's still always a challenge. It's still always me having to talk to myself, thinking out things and saying like, is this really worth it?
Yeah.
So that's a challenge for me. That's my challenge.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it right on point when you say work-life balance. And now that I have, most of you would know, I have two young kids, and I'm happily married with two young kids. So work-life balance is definitely a must, if not the most important priority, because like I feel like if you're mentally exhausted at home, then you will bring that into work, or vice versa. Yeah. So having kids and being busy, it doesn't really kill the dream, but it kind of gives you a different perspective in life.
Yeah.
Like for me right now, I used to be able to think like making a lot of money, big house, fast cars, whatever. That's the dream, right? But now the dream it's so simple that sometimes I even ask myself, is that really a dream? But my dream is just like my kids are healthy. I can spend time with them because they're growing up so fast. Mai Khanh knows. Myself and Bao and Kang is a good friend. So our kids grow up so fast, and every time we see each other, like they're like a year old. We only see each other like usually at birthdays. So like she's gonna be 4 in a few months, and go to school, and then that's it. And, you can have time to spend with them. So yeah. There's no challenge. It's pretty much just new realization of what's important. Yeah.
So I guess that would answer my follow-up, which was like, how do you overcome the challenge? And I guess you,
for me, overcoming, like learn to say no.
Oh,
yeah, learn to say no. Definitely learn to say no and kind of prioritizing it. Definitely a must. So, but
Setting out your priorities,
priority,
making
yeah,
boundaries.
my priority is my kids and my wife. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I agree, totally agree. Prioritizing, and it's like making the time, right? So it's like,
Right.
whatever your priorities are, is you really need to schedule out that time,
Yeah.
so that you don't have everything just like all mumble jumbled in your head,
Right.
but everything's like, okay, like you can make everything work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really all about, okay, how can I make it work? What
Yeah.
time do I have so that I'm not overrunning out or running out of my mental capacity and my physical capacity as well too. So
Yeah.
I know this is up to the individual, but what would you say to somebody who has, so many things going on their plate? They don't want to give anything up. They could, but they really don't want to. For example, in the case of a student, this is a student who should be a full-time student who has perhaps, 2 or 3 extracurriculars. And of course, you have to calculate in their, commitments to personal life, whether it be friends or family as well. What would you say to somebody like that?
yeah, I'm like, are you talking to my current students right now? Like, no, and I have to admit, like, the students nowadays in this generation, they work so hard.
Yeah.
They're so, and they know the reason why they have to, because it's just so competitive out in the real world right now, For them, for that kind of student, what I would remind them is breathe, relax, right? Take a moment. Because sometimes, like, we are going at 100 miles per hour without
Yeah.
without truly thinking through some of our actions, right? So it's just remind them, okay, like, take a breather, right? And really kind of decide on what are some of the pros and cons to all of these different things
Yeah.
that you are involved in. And I always remind them, like, okay, sometimes for colleges and for some workplaces as well too, they would prefer to see that you are committed to a couple of things and you move around in different positions to gain those different experiences, rather be involved in 10,000 things, but only be like 1% performance at each of it.
Yeah.
So really trying to have them realize, like, okay, what more can you do in this certain program? Like,
Yeah.
in the sport, can you become the captain? Can you move up in ranks? Can you
Yeah.
go from JV to varsity? So really trying to remind them, like, okay, what skills are you really trying to showcase? Because if you're spreading yourself so thin, it's going to make you first burn out, and you're not going to be mentally well and in check. But then also too, it's like, what kind of message are you trying to show these different people with that too?
Yeah. I was in school during like the 2014 to 2018, and I don't know particularly where I heard it, but that was also kind of the guideline for me as well. That was commitment over spreading myself too thin.
Yes.
Yeah, showing commitment. All right. Yeah. So at this point, do you, Tree, have any lessons that you've learned, like really valuable lessons you've learned in discovering your path in life?
I think one of the lessons I learned. Have you guys heard of that 80-20 rule?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's pretty fascinating. 80-20 rule, pretty much it says there are, for example, okay, if you look at your wardrobe, you wear 20% of your wardrobe 80% of the time, right? Or for example, we go to a boba shop, we order, right? We would order like that 20% of the menu like 80% of the time. Same with food, right? So like going back to what Mai Khanh was saying, like, if you find something you're good at, find 20% of the stuff that you have on your plate, the 20%, the top 20% you're good at, and spend 80% of your time doing those stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so that for me that's a good philosophy to live, right?
Oh, okay.
And also to remind me to like clean out my closet because I only wear like 20% of my clothes.
Fair. That's true.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, prioritize it. What's 20% of what's the most important? What's gonna make you happy? The quality time, right? And spending 80% of your energy on.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one strategy. Do you have a best lesson?
Ooh, past lesson. I always remind my students is just to take risks and take those opportunities, because truly you don't know what you're going to enjoy or what you're good at until you try it. So opportunities, anytime that you see it, you take it, and you learn from it as well too. So if it doesn't come out to be how you expected it to be, it's a learning lesson, and you take it and you move on to the next thing.
I do think that for a lot of students too, that this is the prime time to take all those risks and opportunities. Yeah. I'm not to say that you can't do when you're older and, change it up like Tree did, but
All the time.
it'd be most
Constantly
ideal.
revolving.
It'd be most ideal when you're younger and you still have hopefully a good support system around you to fall back on.
Definitely. And you're not adults. So technically you really can't get into trouble yet.
Yep.
You know.
There you go.
Yeah, just
You can learn from them still.
just don't do anything illegal, but
Disclaimer.
a disclaimer, or if you do, just hide it. Don't post on social media. All right, yeah. So just to wrap up, do you guys envision any future changes to your life path at all?
I know, like, we talked about education a lot and going back to school. Like, I definitely do want to go back to school. Right now, thankfully for my teacher credential, I do have a master's with it too, but I do want to go back, get another master's somewhere. I don't know where yet, but eventually just be able to gain more experience and be able to be a bigger part in my community at my school. So yeah, so definitely going back to school will be in my future. Yes.
Nice.
And is there any programs that's you rolling out that our listeners can benefit from?
Oh, for at Westminster High School?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a lot. Okay, so we do. So, like I mentioned before, I'm a Vietnamese teacher along with a couple of other Vietnamese teachers at Westminster High School. At Westminster High School, we have officially announced that we are part of the Vietnamese dual language immersion pathway for our students. And so right now, in our local community, DeMille Elementary is the first school who has it from kindergarten to 6th. Those students had continued from in middle school at Warner Middle School, so going from 7th to 8th. And now their first cohort of students who has gone through basically 8-9 years of Vietnamese dual language immersion, we are trying to have them continue that pathway with us at Westminster High School. Nice. And I know right now Westminster High School just got on the newspaper for Bao Người Việt.
I saw that.
So yeah, okay, I was like, cool.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to mention that.
Yes, and I was like, I just got the newspaper because one of our other Viet teachers, she came by my classroom. She's like, hey, Mai Khanh, this is from my parents. Like, she just brought me the newspaper. I was like, oh, okay, like this is a great achievement. And the only reason I know there's a couple of other school districts who also talked about VDLI program as well too. For us, it's kind of special for us because we're continuing our pathway with like the Westminster School District, and then now they're moving into Westminster High School, even though we're not the same district because we're not unified. But it's kind of nice to see like, oh, it's staying within the Westminster High School realm or Westminster City. And then also again, we're connecting that pathway from DeMille, elementary to middle to high school now. So we are in, there's a lot of development still happening. But no matter what, like, it's nice to always have support of the community, parents, the students, the staff, our school districts and stuff too. So it's a big step for us all.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great to hear because we do have a summer school program here. So maybe we can, collaborate with you to help because I have a daughter, like I mentioned, and I would love for her to continue learning Vietnamese. And just to let you know, she will be enrolled in DeMille. So
Yay. Yeah. And for us, like, I understand, like, and I know me too, like, learning Vietnamese, it's such a big benefit. Like, no matter what, whether you want to become a pediatrician, become a teacher, like, knowing the language and being able to give back to your community, like that's the most important piece, like for me growing up as well. So now for the VDLI program, it's like, okay, they learn the language, and then hopefully in high school when they continue, they're going to start using the language more to help out in different careers and different colleges and all of that stuff. So it's again trying to connect them back to the community piece so that they remember that, you know, like this is where they come from.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Great. Do we have any final words before we, part with our audience?
Well, I just want to say thank you again to Hope Community Services. This is really, truly awesome. I've been in Hope like when I was younger, during my high school years, during my college years. And it's so great to see that there's this kind of opportunity to learn from each other still, you know, beyond the summer school timelines, you know. So thank you so much again.
Yeah. This has been fun.
It's been fun. It's great.
Yeah.
Great information for our community, and also great to meet Mai Khanh, who we know for a long time. So thank you, Mai Khanh.
Thank
And
you.
we'll catch you again later. But now, this is the Community HOPEcast, and we're going to sign off. You can catch us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Give Us Hope OC, or you can catch this podcast on YouTube and Spotify. All right, bye.